everyone, my name's Andy and welcome back to another FPL video, and in this one I'm talking £5 million midfielders or less in price in Fantasy Premier League. I think this category is probably not going to change too much from now until the start of the season. Perhaps we'll find an absolute bargain to go for, but something tells me this category won't change too much. A lot of people want to spend 5 or 4.5 million on their bench midfielder. I'm personally a fan of 4.5, so I've included one of those as well in this video, but some people like to spend that a little bit extra. And perhaps you even want to spend 5 million on a fourth midfielder to maybe play some weeks when you've got a player missing, or just to fund another big hitter elsewhere in your team. So whatever your strategy is, whatever formation you're going for, hopefully this video will help you. So let's kick off. Let's start off with Jorginho, 5 million at Chelsea, and obviously Chelsea have got a transfer ban, so they can't bring any more players in. So we'd expect even under Lampard for Jorginho to play a pretty big role. We don't know what formation Lampard's going to play yet, but from what I'm reading, it looks much like he's either going to play a 4-2-3-1 or a 4-3-3. Either way, Jorginho would probably be the deep lying playmaker, a little bit like what he was like under Sarri, with Kante being kind of the ball winner. So those two could play in a double pivot or in a midfield three. We'll have to wait and see what happens. Now he got 2.6 points per match last year, which wasn't the best for 5 million midfielders, but it was pretty close to the 3.2. Only 2 goals and 0 assists, although he might consider himself a little bit unlucky, as he had an expected assist of 5.21. Now, obviously, a lot of that comes down to the players you're passing to and who finishes. And we know Chelsea had a lot of problems putting the ball in the back of the net. And obviously, they've also lost Hazard and gained Pulisic this year. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I think overall, obviously, the quality in Chelsea's attack is going to drop a little bit. But if you can keep getting those expected assists, then we'd expect him, hopefully, to get a few more assists than he did last year. And obviously, that will tot his numbers up. The big thing that people are liking about Jorginho, and we'll have to wait and see, hopefully pre-season will give us a little bit of a better indication. But obviously with Hazard gone, he was the main penalty taker, and Jorginho was almost like the backup, so he did take a few penalties. So in pre-season, if they do get some penalties, we might see who takes them. I wouldn't be completely shocked if Lampard gives it to whoever's the number one striker, whether that's Abraham, Batshuayi, Giroud, whoever it might be. They might get the duties. But Jorginho pretty decent at them, and like I said, did take a few in the absence of Hazard. So if he's on penalties for 5 million, he might just be about the best you can get. So next up is Mark Noble, Mr. West Ham himself. And interestingly, when it comes to points per match, he got 3.2, which is the highest for everyone that's priced at 5 million or less this year in midfielders. He was actually joint top with Kante, so pretty decent. 5 goals, 5 assists, but only had 7 shots in the box. So a lot of his goals came from penalties. He is the penalty taker at West Ham when he's on the pitch. So that's obviously good. And Arnautovic gone as well. Not likely to try and step on his toes. So we'd expect him to keep penalties. The only thing is he didn't play as many minutes as the likes of Jorginho. He played like 700 to 800 less than Kante and Jorginho. Written it down, he had 3 where he just wasn't in the squad at all, 4 where he was on the bench the whole game, and 3 matches where he came on. So his minutes are quite low compared to the others, and he is 32 now. So we'll have to wait and see if he gets as many minutes this year, maybe a few more, maybe a few less. So it's a little bit of a worry, but when it comes to 5 million midfielders, they don't get too much better than Noble, especially when you get a penalty taker. Obviously, I've just spoken about Jorginho, and he could be on penalties, but that's not an absolute guarantee. Whereas we know when Noble's on the pitch that he'll get them. So unless a striker comes into West Ham that takes over, I just don't see it happening. He's taken penalties for so long. Could really keep him. So I like him as an option versus Jorginho. I think in terms of goals and assists, he's probably a little bit more likely to get them than the Chelsea man. It's just that his minutes might be a bit of a worry, and we'll have to see who comes in at West Ham that might take even more of those away. So Oliver Norwood is the only promoted player on this list, and as a lot of you might know if you've watched my videos, I don't tend to go for promoted players at the start of the season, but for 5 million or less, I'd make an exception for a couple of reasons. One, it's not really a kind of slot in your team that you want to be spending too many transfers on. I think whoever you pick, you almost want for the long haul until at least your first wild card. And although Sheffield United, you'd expect their fixtures to be a bit tougher because obviously they are newly promoted, but they do have 2 home games. Arguably, I could have made the Crystal Palace green. But again, you don't really want to focus too much on fixtures because you'd want to keep this player in your team for a little while and not be spending transfers on them every single week. So if we look at the stats from last season, points-wise obviously, and points per match we can't look at because he was in the Championship. But looking at other key stats, had 57 shots last year, although 53 were from outside the box. So he kind of plays in the kind of double pivot as 2 in midfield. So he is quite deep, but he does like a good shot from outside the box. But as far as I can tell from what I've read, he's pretty nailed. If any Sheffield United players are watching this, or Sheffield United fans are watching this, let me know in the comments below if I've got that wrong. But looks pretty good. 2.3 key passes per game, 1.3 shots per game. Gave him 3 goals and 8 assists, and he actually created 97 chances last year, which is second in the championship. So pretty decent on free kicks and some corners as well. Was only beaten by Hernandez at Leeds. So stats-wise are pretty good. You'd expect them to drop a little bit, of course, going into the Premier League. It'll be harder for the players that he's creating these chances for to put them away against kind of Premier League defenders and goalkeepers. But I think he looks pretty good for 5 million. Like I said, you've got to temper the kind of points expectation when you're only spending 5 million. And newly promoted or not, it could be a really good option. So for the eagle-eyed of you who've been watching all the videos pre-season, you will know that Kante was on the list for players to avoid. That's because his percentage ownership is so high. And I think people kind of put him in their team because they know him and they know he plays for a top side. But realistically, you want goals and assists. Now, he did get 4 goals, 4 assists last year. But those goals came from 6 shots on target, which doesn't seem that sustainable for me. We'll have to wait and see how Lampard uses him. Like I said, we'd expect Jorginho to be kind of a more deep-line playmaker and Kante being the ball winner. But I don't expect him to get as much license to go forward this year. But he did score 116 points. He's absolutely nailed. I don't expect that to change. And like Noble, he was 3.2 points per match. But you'd expect him to get more minutes. So over the course of a season, he'll definitely score more. But I'd expect those goals to come down. Assist-wise, he did have 3.53 expected assists, so getting 4 is pretty decent and something that he could sustain. But I'm not sure he'll be able to do that with the goals. So, like I said, 6 shots on target. So we'll have to see how he does under Lampard. If Jorginho gets penalties, I think it's a no-brainer to go for him instead of Kante. But in terms of minutes and points per match, then he could be the better option. Definitely worth noting Hojbjerg on the list. 53 shots last year was pretty impressive. Out of all the Premier League players from last year that we're comparing in this video, that was the most, and he had 45 penalty area touches, which only Kante had more on this list. So similar to Norwood in that he likes a shot. And you'd hope that Hassan Hutel, brings in a few more signings in the summer. Already got Che Adams in, and obviously gets a full pre-season under his belt. Hopefully he can improve Southampton even more. Obviously once he took over in December, they definitely looked better. And if Hojbjerg's in the team, hopefully he can improve on his goals and assists from last year, which were 4 goals, 3 assists. In terms of points, he scored 90 and was 2.9 points per match. So that was very close to the top end from the other midfielders at this price. So Kante and Noble, like I said, were top at 3.2. And Hojbjerg was just around. So pretty nailed on, or he should be. Again, we'll have to monitor signings throughout the summer. But if he is nailed, then you'd expect him to get a pretty similar total to last year. Maybe even slightly improved in this Southampton team. It could be one of the better options. So Dendoncker is last on the list, and the only one that's not priced at 5 million. He's 4.5 million. And one of my favourites, he's currently in my squad, and because the way I'll utilise this spot as the 5th midfielder, I won't play them week in, week out. So for me, he's spot on at 4.5 to save the 0.5. There's other players on this list that I think are good if you want to spend that 5. But for me, this is the kind of player I'm looking at. Now, points-wise was quite a bit lower than the rest, 48 points. But that's because he didn't get into the Wolves squad until the second half of the season when they switched to kind of 3-5-2. And he played in the midfield too. And obviously, Jota went up front with Jimenez. So 17 shots was not to be sniffed at. Only 2 goals and no assists. But I'd expect improvement on that next year. So I've looked from game week 20 to game week 38. Because obviously, like I said, he did come into the team late in the season. And in that time, he had 14 shots inside the box, which was 6 higher than Hojbjerg in the same time and 8 more than Kante. He had 8 big chances, which is really impressive for a player like that. So as long as Wolves stick to 3-5-2, and again, we'll probably see that in pre-season, he should be a mainstay in that team and start the season well. He had 17 goal attempts in that time again from 20 to 38. Only behind Hojbjerg, who we've said likes a shot. But like I said, Dendoncker gets more shots in the box. And Wolves were 7th for expected goals in that time as well. So as an attacking unit, they were very similar to their league place, and you'd expect that again to continue this year. We'll have to see how they do in Europe first, whether they make any new additions and they don't get any kind of second season syndrome. But I think Wolves look pretty good again once these initial fixtures are out the way. But for 4.5 million right now, it doesn't look like you're going to get much better. Maybe as pre-season goes on, we'll see someone else emerge as a 4.5 million talent. But for now, Dendoncker is definitely my favourite and probably the one that I will go for. So that's it for this video. Thanks very much for watching as always. Let me know in the comments below which £5 million midfielder or less, if any, are you looking at? Is there one that I've not mentioned that you've got your eye on instead? Is there someone better? And are you playing that midfielder as kind of a 4th spot, playing every week, even in a midfield 3 maybe, or is it just someone you're going to put on your bench like me with Dendoncker? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, give it a like, much appreciated. As always, the support's been great pre-season. It'll be great to get to 1,000 likes, and if you're new around here, hit subscribe and click that bell so you're notified when all the videos go live. I've currently got one planned for kind of every other day, so hopefully I can keep that up through to game week 1 start, and obviously it'll let you know when I go live and live stream, which I do quite a lot during the season, and hope to have a few of them running up to game week 1 as well. So other than that, I will catch you next time. Like, comment, share, subscribe, all of that good stuff, and I'll see you soon. If you did enjoy this video, or you want to support the channel even further, then I do have a Patreon page set up, which you can find in the link in the description below. There's a few different tiers, which I won't go into too much here, but one of them gets you Slack access, so that's with all the other Patreons. We just chat about FPL in general, chit chat, so that's open right now, being talked about over the summer, building teams and things like that. There's actually no charge for Patreon until August 1st. That's when the mini leagues start up in August, so if you just want to join up now and get invited to Slack and see how it is, and obviously if you don't like it you can cancel, if not you can just carry on. And the mini leagues reset every month, so even if you're having a bad season, there'll be a new mini league code every single month to try and get some winning. So if you want to check that out, link in the description below, or send me a message, and hopefully I'll see you over there soon.